I have two words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming.
You will never see it coming.
I've got one that can see.
All right, just kind of keeping an eye out for this propaganda. We all know about the Iran deal, and supposedly there's a deal, and then at the end of the week there's not a deal, there's a deal, there's not a deal. They've been doing that for probably the last couple, 2-3 months. But just came across this. Today is supposed to be the day they sign the peace deal, and this just came up right here.
President Donald Trump has expressed a tremendous amount of optimism that the Memorandum of Understanding between the U.S. and Iran will be signed on Sunday, and that'll trigger 60 days of negotiations towards a final agreement. Pakistan has also expressed that kind of optimism, though it should be worth noting that Pakistan's mediators have expressed a lot of optimism in the past that hasn't gotten us to the point of a Memorandum of Understanding. But we're hearing a very different message from Iran. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said in a statement that they definitely won't be signing an agreement on Sunday and that there are still...
There it is. See, the deal is, it's all scripted, but Trump is a liar. You know, he's like his father, the devil, the father of lies. But you can't believe anything that comes out of here. But whether it's real or not, this is going to bring in something big. Plus, we all know that... I think it was that Wesley Clark talks about Iran being the last country. I'll see if I can find that video and put it on into this one.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
But this has been happening every week and totally controlling the markets and manipulating them and all that crap. But telling you, man, as long as that Strait of Hormuz stays closed, which they're not going to open it no time soon, but they're just keeping the people hanging on, man. Trump is the biggest liar of any of them.
Points in the MOU that need to be worked out before there is a signing. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said there won't be an agreement signed on Sunday, although acknowledging it could be in the coming days. Then, of course, there's the question of what's actually in the MOU that's about to be...
Give me a break. They're all in on it together. And if they're not, I don't know, it always makes me, there's this verse in the Bible, you guys help me out if you know what I'm talking about, where it talks about in the latter days that, you know, God's going to turn the kings against one another. I don't know if that's supposed to happen a little later on, like during the Great Tribulation, or right at the end before the Great Tribulation, but I'll see if I can find that one too. It might be in one of the extra biblical books, like Jubilees or Jasher or some book like that. But I'm telling you, the way this is going right now, they're full of it, man. There's not going to be any peace deal. And they keep saying peace, peace. What does that remind you of?
Government-backed protesters on the streets of Tehran.
It says peace, peace, but there will be no peace until the Prince of Peace is ruling and reigning. But like it says in, I think it's 1st or 2nd Thessalonians, that when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction's coming upon them. But this is it, man. Everything's ramping up. And today, you got the UFC fight at the White House, and I know y'all probably seen videos of that. That thing looks like kind of like a portal or something. But Trump even said that he was going to leave it up. He compared it to like the Eiffel Tower. Said they built the Eiffel Tower temporarily or something, and then they decided to leave it up. And he compared it to his UFC like ring or whatever they are. I think they paid. He said he paid $60 million to build this UFC ring. Unbelievable. With especially with the Americans struggling to pay the bills and to put gas in their car, our president is building a $60 million UFC fighting arena. Unbelievable. But I'm telling you, man, I've been watching this, and they'll say there's a deal. There's not a deal. There's a deal. There's not a deal. But like if you look to the right, I just saw it on the right of the screen. That's that picture right there of where you got Trump and Netanyahu. You got that missile, the back of it sticking in the ground like that. Give me a break. You know that's a prop. What is this with 13 minutes ago? See what this is.
We are continuing to follow some breaking news at this hour that I did want to transition to, and that is this right here. This is from Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst as he shares this. He just spoke with President Trump, who says, quote, the deal with Iran is expected to be signed in the next 2 to 3 hours. President Trump said he asked Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, what the expletive are you doing, on a call after the Israeli strikes against Beirut. He told Netanyahu not to conduct additional strikes. The president told me he will ask Iran not to respond with missile fire toward Israel. So that is...
This also fulfills scripture where everybody's going to hate Israel, and that's all by design. These people, they are purposely trying to fulfill biblical prophecy. Absolutely, but it also says that God, the Lord, puts it in their hearts to fulfill his will. So they're playing right into God's hand. You're not going to be able to manipulate a God that knows the end from the beginning. But just all of this is just all propaganda. You know, they're getting ready to sign the peace deal. Something's going to happen and they won't sign it. Just every day that it goes where they don't open up the Strait of Hormuz, there's not going to be any gas. And you got July 4th coming up, the 250th anniversary of this country. And supposedly no other empire has ever lasted longer than 250 years. But it's just, man, it's like a perfect storm. Everything's just ramping up like something's getting ready to pop off.
Is the breaking news that we have been following since President Trump shared this with Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst, stating that a deal signing with Iran is expected to be imminent. That is set, he says, for the next 2 to 3 hours. I did want to also share this with you right here. This is a live look that I'm going to bring up, taking us live to Beirut, as Israel had struck targets there in Beirut. And that is what President Trump was alluding to as he asked Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, I know y'all don't want to watch this, but I guarantee you there will be no peace deal. No peace. All right, I found it right here. I thought it was in Jubilees, but it's in 1st Enoch. It says this is a key passage within the book of parables. 1st Enoch describing a chaotic end-time scenario where God uses angels to stir up foreign kings, specifically the Parthians and the Medes. But it says to attack the land of his elect. But these kings ultimately turn against one another in mutual destruction. Okay, we know all this stuff's scripted, but like it says in the end times, God is going to turn these kings on one another. Like it says right here, it says the kings start fighting among themselves, resulting in a massive slaughter where brothers and sons turn on one another. But yeah, that's the part I was talking about.
appearance occurs on a Sunday morning. My prophetic word to you this morning is get ready, get ready.